Okay, so we have Amos, the next minor prophet. Amos, chapter 1 and verse 1. Amos. The words of Amos, who was among the herdmen of Tekoa, which he saw concerning Israel, in the days of Uzziah, king of Judah, and in the days of Jeroboam, the son of Joash, king of Israel, 2 years before the earthquake. Must have been a major earthquake at that time. And so a reference was 2 years before that. Amos prophesied. Amos was a farmer and a shepherd. He also had a business growing trees. And he was a prophet. He didn't have the training that other prophets did. Didn't go to school for it. He was what we would call a layman. So he had business and he prophesied at the same time. Amos prophesied during the reign of kings Jeroboam II and Uzziah, two of the most competent and effective kings that brought their kingdoms to the height of success. It was a time of great material prosperity, second only to the age of Solomon. Archaeologists have found hundreds of ivory inlays in the excavations of Samaria, proving Israel's prosperity at that time. Religion flourished too, not worship of God, but a mixed worship of Jehovah. Of course, Jehovah is the true God. And Canaanite gods were worshipped as a mixture. The Hebrews offered their sacrifices enthusiastically. They believed that God was with them, and they believed that they were immune to disaster. Yeah, God's on our side. He's with us. Kind of like America, you know. God is with us. We're a Christian nation in name. Amos, being a successful businessman, prophesied of the judgment to come on Israel and on the other nations. So here they are. They're doing great. You know, this is the greatest that Israel has been since Solomon. They must have had a mega, make Israel great again. And they're doing great. And Amos is saying, you're going to be judged. We're going to be in the poorhouse again. Destruction is coming. Amos. That's not going to happen. Things are going great for us. Verse 2. And he said, the Lord will roar from Zion and utter his voice from Jerusalem. And the habitations of the shepherds shall mourn, and the top of Carmel shall wither. Amos' view of God is not just that he is the God of Israel, but of the whole world. However, God's harshest judgment fell on his own people, who had the most light given to them. For this first section of prophecy, I call this Amos' swirling vortex of terror, as you will see in a few minutes. Our first picture. This is Israel and Judah during the time of Amos. Boundaries, and you'll see what these other ones are in a moment. So this is around 700 BC. Israel and Judah were divided. So Judah is the green, Israel is the purple. And Amos pronounces judgment on the enemies of Israel and Judah, beginning with Damascus, far to the north. Damascus was the capital and largest city in Syria. So that was owned by the Syrians, north of Israel. And verse 3, thus saith the Lord, for 3 transgressions of Damascus, and for 4, I will not turn away the punishment thereof, because they have threshed Gilead with threshing instruments of iron. For 3 transgressions and for 4. The 4th judgment was the one that broke the camel's back. So, God is citing 3 transgressions and then another one. The worst, or the one that provoked him to the point of judgment. 3 transgressions and for 4. This just shows that God is merciful. And he doesn't just lash out right away. He withholds his judgment for a long time. And he's very patient with us until evil amasses to the point that God can't stand it anymore. So there's Damascus, north of Israel, Israel's enemy. They were cruel to God's people, Israel. And God says what he's going to do to them. Yeah, go get them, God. Beat them up. Hit them, smack them, poke them. And God says, verse 4, but I will send a fire into the house of Hazael, which shall devour the palaces of Ben-Hadad. That's in Syria. So he's going to send fire. Yeah, burn them, God. Burn them to the ground. Hazael was the name of the Syrian king in Damascus. And so that was the judgment against them. In verse 5, it says, God said, I will break also the bar of Damascus. Not the bar where you get liquor. The bar is the gate of the city, and cut off the inhabitant from the plain of Avon, and him that holdeth the scepter from the house of Eden. And the people of Syria shall go into captivity unto Kir, saith the Lord. Their bar, their gate to the city, was well fortified. So it was a strong defense that they prided themselves over it. Oh, look, we have this strong defense. Nobody can penetrate it. Nothing can invade us, including God. Oh, don't say that. And so God delights in taking our prideful strength and breaking it like a toothpick. And there was another Syrian king, Tiglath-Pileser III, that captured Damascus and took them captive. Hooray! A cheer goes up. Yeah. So Israel and Judah, they're cheering. Israel was cheering. Damascus, yeah, down with Down with the Syrians. Verse 6. Thus saith the Lord, for 3 transgressions of Gaza, and for 4, I will not turn away the punishment thereof. The next place is Gaza. Well, if you know where Gaza is, that's in the news a lot. Gaza Strip to the west, southwest of Israel. And so, here's Amos prophesies about Damascus, enemy of Israel. And then he goes to the other end, Gaza. That's where the Philistines were. The land of the Philistines. And it says, because they carried away captive the whole captivity to deliver them up to Edom. What this is talking about is human trafficking, slave trade. They deported whole communities of Israelites and Judahites to Edom as slaves. And God's judgment on them, verse 7, but I will send a fire on the wall of Gaza, which shall devour the palaces thereof. Burn the whole city, burn it to the ground. Yeah, God, do it. Get them. They deserve it. Notice the enemies of God's people to the north and the ones to the south, from one end to the other end. Next, verse 9. Thus saith the Lord, for 3 transgressions of Tyrus, and for 4, I will not turn away the punishment thereof. Tyrus is the next one, and Tyrus is in the north, the northwest. So, northeast, southwest, northwest, and Tyrus is the Phoenicians. And the sin of the Phoenicians was the same as the Philistines, human trafficking, slavery. So we'll read the rest of verse 9. Because they delivered up the whole captivity to Edom, and remembered not the brotherly covenant. So, in addition to slavery, they also broke a covenant. They had a covenant, and they broke it. You should always keep your promises. God hates it when we don't. That was part of the reason for the judgment. Verse 10, again, but I will send a fire on the wall of Tyrus, which shall devour the palaces thereof. Again, fire. Fire, fire, fire. On all these places. Verse 11, thus saith the Lord, for 3 transgressions of Edom. Well, Edom, they're the ones that received the slaves. And for 4, I will not turn away the punishment thereof, because he did pursue his brother with a sword, and did cast off all pity. And his anger did tear perpetually, and he kept his wrath forever. So the next one is Edom. Edom, that's down in the south, east. And so Amos, he likes to go back and forth. Damascus, Gaza, Tyrus, Edom. Yeah, you would think that start up at the top and go down, or the bottom and go up, or one side or the other. Why this jumping back and forth? Well, there's a pattern here that you're going to see in about a couple minutes. Next, verse 13. We do verse 12. But I will send a fire upon Timon, which shall devour the palaces of Bozrah. All right, verse 13. Thus saith the Lord, for 3 transgressions of the children of Ammon, and for 4, I will not turn away the punishment thereof, because they have ripped up the women with child of Gilead, that they might enlarge their border. So Ammon, the next one. There's Ammon in the middle, a little bit to the east. The Ammonites were descendants of Lot, Abraham's nephew. They were brethren to the Israelites. Their sin, they brutally attacked and destroyed the Israelites to enlarge their border to the west. They killed civilians, women and children, and yes, even pregnant women. Ripped up the women with child of Gilead. Verse 14, but I will kindle a fire in the wall of Rabbah, and they shall devour the palaces thereof, with shouting in the day of battle, with a tempest in the day of the whirlwind. And their king shall go into captivity, he and his princes together, saith the Lord. Tiglath-Pileser III invaded Ammon in 734 BC, and he took them captive. All right, chapter 2, verse 1. Thus saith the Lord, for 3 transgressions of Moab, and for 4, I'll not turn away the punishment thereof. Moab, in between Ammon and Edom, to the east of Judah. And so that's another relative to the Israelites. And they says their sin, because he burned the bones of the king of Edom into lime. Burned the bones of the king of Edom into lime. So the Moabites, they fought against the Edomites, and the king of Moab burned the bones of his enemy, the king of Edom, into lime, and then using that, the powder of his bones, what do you think? He whitewashed the walls of his house with it so that he could see it constantly and relish in it. And that is despicable. It's a barbarous use. It is inhuman. It takes a base spirit to use any dead body in such a manner, an affront to the God who made us in his image. Honor all men, the Bible says. So there's some things that you don't even do to your enemies. And someone dies, they should be buried. They should get a proper burial. Now, look, Amos was not just jumping around. He was circling in on Judah and Israel. So here we go. From Damascus to Gaza. From Gaza to Tyrus. From Tyrus to Edom. And it just gets a tighter circle. And to Ammon, to Moab, and then God's own people, Judah, is next. So it's an entrapment. Get people all stirred up. God's people are all stirred up. Yeah, get them. They deserve it. And then God shows them what their sin is. Oh. So, verse 4, thus saith the Lord, for 3 transgressions of Judah, and for 4, I will not turn away the punishment thereof. Why? Because they despised the law of the Lord. So Amos' criticism of the preceding 6 nations was their cruel and inhuman conduct. God would treat Judah with the same justice that he promised Israel's other neighbor nations. Judah's overflowing sin was her failure to live by the Torah, God's law, the instruction that God had given her, including the Mosaic covenant. And they listened to false prophets and worshipped idols. So God promised to destroy Judah and Jerusalem, just as he had promised to destroy our sinful neighbors. The fulfillment came with Nebuchadnezzar's destruction of Jerusalem in 586 BC. So it says, verse 4, the middle there, because they have despised the law of the Lord and have not kept his commandments, and their lies cause them to err. They're listening to false teachers, prophets, after the which their fathers have walked. And the judgment, I will send fire upon Judah, shall devour the palaces of Jerusalem. Jerusalem was burnt to the ground, destroyed by Nebuchadnezzar. Verse 6. Well, they took the people captive. I know they took people captive 2 times. I'm not sure exactly. I don't know all the details. Sorry about that. Really? Have to look into that. Yeah. So, well, if it was a warning from God. All right, verse 6. Thus saith the Lord, for 3 transgressions of Israel, and for 4, I will not turn away the punishment thereof. So, Israel is next. Makes a nice spiral going inward. Because they sold the righteous for silver, and the poor for a pair of shoes. God told of the 4th sin of the other nations. For Israel, he tells all their sins, lays it out. 4 and more. Israel's sin or sins, first, taking advantage of the poor, needy people who owed debts, of whom it says they were righteous. Did you catch that? They sold the righteous for silver. These were people that, if they could, they would have paid it. They weren't able to. You know, they weren't just stealing. They weren't just avoiding their responsibility. They could not pay it. And the other sin, they sold the poor for a pair of shoes. That small of an amount. So, selling into slavery someone who could not pay the small price of a pair of shoes. Second, perverting the legal system to exploit the poor. The courts were siding with creditors against their debtors. They were stepping on the poor. This was as painful and humiliating as having one trample on one's head as it lay in the dust. So you can read through. It says about that, verse 7. Third, fathers and sons were having sexual relations with the same women. That's in verse 8. Fourth, the Israelites failed to return garments taken as pledges, the collateral for debts owed them. So, that's in verse 8. Or the other one was verse 7. This one's verse 8. So, the law specified that the Israelites could take a garment as a pledge, except the garment of a widow, but they were supposed to return it to the owner before nightfall, so that they would have something, that they wouldn't get cold, through the night. Fifth, the Israelites were perverting the worship of God. They were using wines they had received as fines to honor heathen gods. They drink the wine of the condemned in the house of their God. And so the next 7 chapters of Amos, almost the rest of the book, are all about God's judgment on Israel. The Apostle Peter said, "For the time is come that judgment must begin at the house of God," God's people. And Israel received greater judgment than her neighbors did. I hear Christians complain a lot about the evil that is in our land, and yet, who's responsible for it? We are. Christians are. Jesus said, "Ye are the salt of the earth." What does salt do? It preserves. But, he said, if the salt has lost its savor, wherewith shall it be salted? Christians have not been the salt that we are supposed to be. We have not fought the good fight. We've been lazy and apathetic. Oh, well, it doesn't concern me. I don't care. It's not bothering me. We have made many compromises over sin. We have not followed God's laws. The worship of God is corrupted. There is wrong doctrine. The Word of God is not rightly divided. Theology is distorted. And Christian America is proud, full of stinking pride. We need to humble ourselves before God. We're proud of ourselves, at least, mainstream Christianity in America. They're proud of themselves. They think they're good, that they won't be judged. Oh, we're the good guys. America is a Christian nation. We're the good guys. And a stage has been set. Just in the past few years, there's been a polarization, good versus evil. But it's because of Christians not doing their duty. And that evil has gotten to where it is. The most important thing is to get people saved, teach them the Word of God. It's not holding a political campaign, not passing legislation, even though that would be helpful. But we need change from within. The heart of man needs to be changed. And I don't see that. I don't see sorrow, remorse. I don't see weeping. I don't see Christians changing their lives around. They just look at the ones that are worse than themselves, and they're the bad ones. They're the reason for all the trouble. And we need to do a thorough analysis of ourselves and come into compliance with God. Search me, O God, see if there be any wicked way in me. We see Muslims that are far from us, just like Damascus was far from Israel, relatively speaking. The Muslims, they're very far from us. Oh, those are worshipers of false god. They worship Allah. So we know that they're wrong. They're bad. And they mistreat their women and their children. And if someone steals something, they cut off their hand, which that's cruel and unusual punishment. God does not advocate that. God says that if someone steals something, that their punishment is to pay back fourfold. Pay back 4 times the amount. That's the punishment for stealing, not having your hand cut off. So the Muslims, yeah, we know, oh, they're wrong, they're off. And, they worship a false god. And they terrorize the world. Down with the Muslims. Yeah, let's get them. We're going to go to war with them. We're gonna kill them. Kill, kill, kill. And the war cry goes up. Warmonger Lindsey Graham Cracker wants to finish them off. Then we see the Chinese taking advantage of us. Oh, how dare they do that? And they're buying our land, our precious land here in America. And some want to say that COVID came from them, which I don't know, but and we think, yeah, down with the Chinese, Then we see Central Americans illegally coming to America, gangs, rapists, murderers, and I'm all for deporting them. Send them back. They're here illegally. They don't even deserve to have a trial in America. What are you doing having a trial for them? They're not Americans. Send them back. And I'm all for that. Get them. Give them their right punishment. Then we see Central Americans illegally coming to America. The Mexicans illegally coming over the border, getting government handouts. And it's easy for us to see the sins of others. But America's own sins, we don't do anything wrong. We're blind. Blind to our own sin. So, homosexuals, transsexuals, we're disgusted by it. That's terrible. It's awful. And we're not for them. We're for their demise. A man shall not wear that which pertaineth to a woman. And you find that in Deuteronomy chapter 22. That abhors us. It is disgusting to see drag queens. Yuck. Men in dresses. But what about the beginning of that verse? Deuteronomy 22:5. A woman shall not wear that which pertaineth to a man. We've accepted that. We have accepted that. Yet over 100 years ago, it was not accepted. Breeches belong to men. We're against abortion, but we accept controlling the number of children we have. There's the wrong attitude about children. Children are looked on as a curse instead of a blessing. And so, we have our own ideas about how to run our lives, and we can have a better life if we limit the number of our children, and we'll get, we'll have work, be able to work better. And we're against nudity and pornography. And yet, Christian women wear shorts above their calves, showing their thighs. They wear swimsuits, showing their thighs, low-cut tops, tight clothes. You know, men don't have to look at pictures. It's right in front of us. We're against alcohol, but we're all right with beer and wine. We're against gambling, but we're all right with buying a lottery ticket. We're against evolution, but we're all right with the world's paradigm of the universe. We're against atheism, but most Christians live like atheists by taking science and psychology over the Bible, by their lack of studying the Bible, reading the Bible, by their lack of prayer. Most Christians pray about as much as atheists do. We're against being greedy, yet we hoard what we can. We're against worshiping false gods, yet by our failure to speak out for what is right, fail to stand for the one true God, by our coexistence, by our wrong, well, I don't want to judge anyone else's religion. Hey, if there's, not everybody can be right. And if it's false, then don't support it. Don't endorse it. Don't encourage it. I don't encourage Jehovah's Witnesses when they come to my door. Oh, you're doing a great job. Keep up the good work. No, you're not. I witness to them, but I don't give them any kind of comfort or encouragement. And many other sins and iniquities, our righteousnesses are as filthy rags. We're all as an unclean thing. So, just like Israel, God's people, if you're saved, you're God's people. You know, God's people isn't the biological Jew. It is those who have faith in the Messiah, the Savior. And so, warning, you know, judgment can come on us. All right, so there will be judgment. And then the last 5 verses of Amos. We're going to read those, chapter 9. This is nice because, it finishes with the restoration of Israel when the Lord returns, the millennial reign of Christ. If you're a believer, you'll be part of that. But, what about your life right now? We have a choice that we can closely follow the Lord, be blessed, or we can be away from the Lord, not be blessed. But this is the, one day we are going to be made right. And so we'll finish with reading this. Chapter 9, verse 11. In that day will I raise up the tabernacle of David that is fallen, and close up the breaches thereof. And I will raise up his ruins, and I will build it as in the days of old, that they may possess the remnant of Edom, and of all the heathen which are called by my name, saith the Lord that doeth this. So one day Israel is going to be all over this map here. Israel will be all of the Middle East. New Jerusalem, 1,500 miles long, 1,500 miles wide, 1,500 miles high. Verse 13, Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that the plowman shall overtake the reaper, and the treader of grapes, him that soweth seed, and the mountains shall drop sweet wine, and all the hills shall melt. So the plowman shall overtake the reaper. It's going to be so prosperous that before they can plant again, the plowman shall overtake the reaper. That's how abundant it will be. And I will bring again the captivity of my people of Israel, and they shall build the waste cities and inhabit them, and they shall plant vineyards and drink the wine thereof. They shall also make gardens and eat the fruit of them. And I will plant them upon their land, and they shall no more be pulled up out of their land, which I have given them, saith the Lord thy God. No more be pulled up. So it's talking about the millennium, the millennial reign of Christ.